Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to review Superman 2. While watching this, I started to realize you know what? You probably don't get a lot of movie sequels if not for this movie. I think you probably would not have gotten the Wolverine origin sequel, The Wolverine, if not for this movie. Probably you would not have gotten the Spider-Man 2 Tobey Maguire Spider-Man sequel film without this film, showcasing that we have Superman who is to decide in this film to settle down instead of settle up with this new threat. A new threat that he is honestly completely unaware of in this film. For a guy that can hear everything in a whole entire planet, I guess the one thing that he just tuned out, just like, no, I don't want to hear that, is the screams and cries of people that are to need his help while these Kryptonians are on the rampage through his planet. Because here's the thing, Superman and Lois would definitely tell us Superman has the ability to hear every single thing going on the entire planet. Superman Returns would tell you the exact same thing. So, Superman 2, I guess Superman is just having a much more ability of turning off his hearing to everything going on because he is just so invested in Lois Lane that really that is having him become a lesser Superman. Here's also the interesting thing in this movie. We kind of do quite a bit of bizarre things with Kryptonian powers in this movie, especially what Zod tends to do. I'm like, wait a minute, like, I don't remember Heat Vision doing that, and wait a minute, I've never seen a Kryptonian that can take his finger and do what Zod does to one townsperson. I'm like, and plus, why is it that any number of the Kryptonians that Zod is with not have that ability either? Is Zod just special? Is he not even Clark has that power, and really that power is never shown again. Was it just they wanted to do something interesting with Kryptonian power? Was this something that they did incorporate later on as just like, well, Superman 2 did this, so why can't we? I thought that was goofy. Here's another goofy thing I want to recommend for people who haven't seen this movie in a really long time. So, the scene where Zod is to take this, he's at this like construction site of a building that hasn't quite been built yet. He is to go and take this wall and grab onto it and eventually chuck this thing at Superman when they are to start out this fight. The scene that happens exactly after that, where you see this crowd and one guy is pointing up, try to pause as quickly as possible right at that scene of the people on the street. You'll realize that actual scene had the whole entire picture flipped. You can tell by the bunch, like, there's a ton of like, there's road signs that are incorrect. There's a whole like billboard in the very back that is to say the word Kent backwards, where they shot that earlier with showing the placement the correct way, but when we get to the scene right after the whole tossing of the wall, all of a sudden that scene is just incorrect. I guess to show like the perfect placement of where Zod was supposed to be, because I guess they shot this like out of like context. Here's what they could have done. They could have done and had people point a number of different locations, so like they could have a number of different kind of shots. But here's the thing. They were shooting Superman 2 right after Superman 1. More than likely they might have been shooting Superman 2 intermittently with 1. So some of the shots that you do actually see that are just a bit different than in the original film. More than likely, they just took those set pieces, used them again, and or just like extended the scenes so that way you could see a little bit more that you didn't see before. Here's the goofy thing, though. So, not quite sure why Jor-El was like they tried to avoid having him in this movie. Did they like they didn't use like stock footage or nothing? Was it like what was up with that? If they actually tried to have someone look like Jor-El, but you could obviously see that they tried to like not shoot the head, so it could have been anybody. So I'm like, why did they go out of their way to avoid us not seeing uh, the guy who was to play Jor-El at all? They could have reused footage. They could have had uh, Jor-El just kind of just placed there as a quick shot so he feels like added into the scene, but obviously he's not actually there. They could have had him like go in there and then leave and then like hey, at least he was technically there, but I guess not. I guess maybe Marlon Brando had no fascination with wanting to be a part of the sequel film when he was probably barely going to be in here for seconds. But I'm like, dude, they could have had all kinds of footage and archiving and whatever. Like, look at like Superman Returns, where like yeah, they used him in there, but why not this film? A little confused. Did they just not want to pay forth the money? Was Marlon Brando asking too much? I don't know. I don't get it. Uh, but with that, so I would say that like I haven't seen Superman 1 in a fairly long time, but recently seeing Superman 2, or to me, it feels like Superman 1 I haven't seen in a fairly long time now, because it's been such a separation from me watching 1 and 2. For Superman 2, I honestly am like, eh. A lot of just, like, putzing around, honestly, with this movie. It's kind of like wait to the big action scene at the end, because a lot of it is just putzing around, a lot of it is stalling, a lot of it is a lot of transitions. Really, I could say probably Superman 1 might be better in my mind than Superman 2, but there is a lot of funny quotes that come from this movie. There's a lot of funny things going on in this film, but I don't know, I think I really rest on the fact I just enjoyed the origin story of Superman because I felt like that was a lot of things being worth to put together, where I think this movie does rest on the fact that, like, hey, like, we're going to spend time building up Zod because we spent so much time building up Superman in the first film that we really need to build up this threat in the second film because they didn't do jack crap nothing for Lex for me in that first film. I don't think Lex was treated good enough in that movie. And in this one, I could just say, well, he's there, but I don't care. I'm waiting for Zod and Superman to battle it out and crash and bash through everything. Here is the one question that I have for people. Was the setting of Superman 2 or the Superman franchise, was that supposed to be in Metropolis? If people are to tell me yes, then why is the Statue of Liberty and a lot of New York settings or set like places in Metropolis? Like the Statue of Liberty is in Metropolis. Does that make any sense to anybody? So this is supposed to be like Metropolis adjacent? Like, is Metropolis somewhere in New York? Is it like a small part of like New York City somewhere? Like, have we finally figured out exactly where Metropolis is in the fake world of things? Yeah, I didn't get that. I didn't quite understand that. Cause in this version of the movie that I watched, we have Superman crashing into the flame of the Statue of Liberty. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, there's a lot of New York landmarks in this movie. I'm like, wait a minute. Is this like Metropolis? Or is it like, hey, it's Metropolis, but we also have a Statue of Liberty here. I'm like, what? Are we like did they go from the first movie actually being Metropolis to now in the sequel film they all shifted to the New York wing of the Daily Planet? Was that ever said in this movie? I guess you can say that now that maybe this is the Daily Planet's New York section, because if you're saying that this is actual, if they said that somewhere this is the Metropolis location, then I'm confused. I'm baffled. But with that said, yeah, I think people might be asking that question whether it's like, yeah, just Metropolis just has all kinds of weird buildings and stuff that makes no sense. It's Metropolis, baby. It's a make-up place. Like, we could have these people like fly all kinds of spots. Maybe Superman and Zod and them flew so far that they made it to the Statue of Liberty just to fly back into Metropolis. Maybe there's this just quick flying that we are to see. Plus also, at the very tail end of this movie, we basically recycle the thing that Superman did in Superman 1 at the end of Superman 2. So, is it like, I'm going to wait to see like Superman 3 and 4 because I want to make my way to that quest of peace, baby. That sweet, because I actually, like, from what I remember about Quest of Peace, I actually like Quest of Peace. I think it might be a good film. I think I might be like, yeah, this is a thumbs up. Or maybe I'll look back on him like, yeah, this wasn't as good as I thought it was. But we're eventually going to get there. It's going to happen. I'm hoping. I'm gonna have to it's gonna be an arduous process getting through Superman 3, but at least I'll have some Richard Pryor in there, so it might even it out a little bit. So let's get into that double five time territory, because I have a little bit of jokes with this review, because there is some goofy quotes being tossed around here, but there's also some kind of just goofy things in this film. Besides just us having these Statue of Liberty and Metropolis moments. But with that said, I think it's that coveted time to say it's spoiler time, it's about that time I'm going to spoil this movie. I didn't realize that was going to be 16 minutes for me to talk about this in a cryptic-like sense, because normally I would take 5. So, with that said, that's already telling me how long this is going to take to get this review out. Because there's a lot of going on in this movie. It's 2 hours, right? I think so. So, let's get into it. So, we have Clark, who is to show up at the Daily Bugle, desperately wanting to get attention from a numerous amount of his coworkers, saying their name, no one cares. To them, Clark is invisible. We have Clark, who is to take his hat and fling it and perfectly have his hat hit this coat rack. And I'm immediately like, how many takes did that do? How many takes did that take to have Clark toss hat and hit coat rack? Was that something that he was practicing in his downtime, and he was like, hey, I have something fun I can do for this opening of this? And they're like, you know what, yeah, go for it. Or maybe that was something that they're like, yeah, go ahead, do this thing and see if you can do it. If not, then I'm sure they had to practice that for 4 months, just him just tossing this hat repetitiously to see if he'd make it, so that way they can shoot this scene. It was a desperation move for that flinging hat maneuver. Clark goes to make it to Perry White, and every single time we have Clark who is with people, they are to mention him. It's like, well, Clark, you gotta be more aggressive. You gotta be a go-getter. You gotta, come on, Clark. You gotta know what's going on. Are you under a rock there, buddy? Have you been living under a rock for a numerous amount of times? So, Perry White is to mention to Clark, hey, buddy, do you know the latest news about the Eiffel Tower and the bomb? And Clark is like, no, I haven't been watching the news. I've been reading Dickens. That scene is awesome. That line is awesome. I've been reading Dickens. What garbage is that? Superman reads Dickens. He's getting some Dickens. Okay, all right. So Perry White is to tell Clark, hey, buddy, well, it seems that Lois Lane, hey, listen there. I feel like an old-fashioned guy that's got to tell you a story. So Perry White is telling Clark, hey, just so you know, Lois Lane is at the Eiffel Tower too, because we had carted her out to have her make it to Paris, to make it to the Eiffel Tower right as this situation is to go on. I'm like, man, did they jet her out? Did they teleport her there? How did she get there that quickly? It's on the other side of the world. How did that news break so quickly that have these people been at the Eiffel Tower overnight? How did they get this news so quickly? And how is it that Lois Lane is there? If Lois Lane has superpowers, let me know in the comments below within this franchise, because How is it that she made it there? Even like, did they helicopter her? Like, they would have had a pretty swanky jet to make it to imaginary metropolis, to Paris, to find the Eiffel Tower. So we have Perry White mentioned to Clark, well, hey, yeah, like, Lois is going to be at the Eiffel Tower trying to cover this news, and you know how Lois is, like, she's going to try to get a Pulitzer Prize out of this whole deal and try to get the biggest scoop that she can possibly get out of this whole ordeal. So Clark is realizing how irrational Lois is for every one of her cases. So Clark is like, well, I gotta get myself to that sweet, delicious Eiffel Tower. So cue us into the Eiffel Tower. We have three goons that are that had tried to get everyone out of this Eiffel Tower. They place a bomb into an elevator, and they're kind of waiting for their ransom demands to be heard, so they can get their money and then leave. I don't know how they're gonna leave out of the Eiffel Tower, but go ahead there, buddy. Lois is to go and sneak underneath this elevator. There is some bizarre-ish, like, little gaps, so Lois can, like, place her entire body and hold on to these elevator gaps at the bottom. All of a sudden, this elevator is to start to move, and Lois is to start to spell out the words Nobel, and then she's to, like, think of what the next word is. Prize. Yeah, I need to spell this thing out. Lois is just, I guess, probably terrified of heights. So, looking down at her almost falling to death eventually at some point moment. So, here's the thing. We have the French police who decide that, hey, how about we go and we take bombs and place them into this elevator to destroy these people being able to get from out of this Eiffel Tower. Because I guess God did not invent stairs in the Eiffel Tower, but Lois Lane, I guess, was to find them because she was to ask a police officer, hey, like, stairs? And so, bizarrely, we have this police officer who is way too into his French to English dictionary to where he's, like, looking at this thing. He is, like, getting 10 feet away from Lois Lane, just like, oh my god, this book is amazing! Like, we have Superman with his Dickens, and we have a French policeman with his dictionary, where just one word is just so grabbing him so much that he needs to go and sit on the hood of his car and just be like, wow, an English to French dictionary, this is amazing. I don't know what any of this stuff is, but man. And then the police officer is to see that Lois is gone, and the police officer goes and like, Monsieur, too late. Lois is going into the Eiffel Tower, 'cause Nobel Prize. So the police is to try and kill this elevator. Killing this elevator has the elevator rapidly drop. So Clark is to change from being Clark to Superman seemingly in one fell movement. So we don't need a telephone booth for this guy. Oh no, he can just walk to be he could speed walk to be Superman, I guess. I miss the telephone booth. I do. It's like a fun thing, but I miss the good old telephone booth thing. Anyways, Superman goes and is to grab the elevator before it completely drops. Superman is to tell Lois, I guess this is your floor. Lois gets off the elevator, off of the rungs of the elevator. So we find out that the terrorists have accidentally armed this bomb and it's ready to blow. Like, how dumb are these robbers that they're just like, should I not arm this? Should I arm this? I don't know. We haven't gotten our money yet, so maybe I should just, like, arm? Not arm. Arm. How dumb are these people? So, Superman takes the elevator and pushes it all the way through the Eiffel Tower because this is a historical monument. But hey, if Superman breaks it, Superman can buy it, I guess. Superman goes and lifts this elevator up into space. So Superman pushes the elevator out into space. Then it coincidentally perfectly, after he pushes it way out there, then it explodes. Superman is to feel the impact and start, like, gushing back and falling back, I guess, back into, I'm assessing, Earth's atmosphere. While that is going on, we have Phantom Zone, Zod, Non, and what is the girl's name? Ursa. I should have figured it would be something goofy like that. Who are in this Phantom Zone, and of course Zod is to yell out when he is to be sent there, like, I will get you, Jor-El! Or something like that, something similar to that. Because in the very beginning of this movie, we are to showcase Zod, Non, and Ursa get sentenced to the Phantom Zone, with, of course, no Marlon Brando there, no Jor-El to send them at all. We just have the Kryptonian elders all telling the three of Zod and company that they are to be guilty and sentenced to the Phantom Zone. Basically, like, they go through the whole, like, rungs of these people, but really it's just to be like, hey, guilty and see you later. So Phantom Zone breaks. Zod, Non, Ursa are now able to kind of do whatever they want now. They have freedom. The very first thing that they are to do, besides go to a 7-Eleven and get a Slurpee, because obviously that's what you would do, right? I desperately need a Slurpee! I desperately need to experience everything. Everything. Also, so let's get to the Zod stuff, and then we'll transition to the Luthor stuff, because we got to cover that too. Zod goes on to the moon. We have an astronaut. We have an astronaut called Nate. He is to mention to his controllers, his guys that are on the telly, consistently talking to them. Nate is to mention that a lot of the astronauts are starting to lose their minds, like they've been in space for way too long. Nate mentions that him and another guy are engaged, and like he starts talking about some of the other some of the other astronauts and how they're just like they're really like very tired and things are really wearing thin. So Zond, Nan, and Ursa come to the moon. So the first thing that this Nate is to see is Ursa. And Nate is like, you know what? I think I'm really losing it. Like, Houston, I have just seen a girl. And then the transition dies. And the controllers are like, what did he say that he saw? One controller mentions, like, well, I think he ended up saying that he saw a curl, which is some kind of comet. Comet? Thing to kill planets. Meteor? Comet? Same thing. Not a comment. If you want to do one of those, appreciate it. But you don't have to. It's great. Or likes. You don't need to do that. Just watch the video. It's cool. It is. Zod is to make his way to one of the astronauts and just decide, hey, how about I just go ahead and like have this guy get pushed out onto space and then I rip his air hose from him so he just dies immediately. Ursa is to check out one of the astronauts, and this girl just has an affinity for these like logo / badges. I don't know what it is for her, but Ursa is to see this astronaut, and she looks at his like NASA or whatever the heck badge, and she's like, you know what, I gotta give me a piece of that. Like, I'm gonna go and like try to grab it. The astronaut freaks out and tries to slowly but surely get away from her, but there is no getting away from her. Ursa grabs the badge, which rips a hole in this guy's suit. This guy's suit all of a sudden like blows up like a balloon. And we're already guessing where this is going. This guy is going to die as well. We can naturally assess or assume that basically every single one of these astronauts are going to die. Nate eventually sees all 3 of these Kryptonians. I think I'll just call them the Kryptonians so we can not have to say every single name every single time. Nate is to see these Kryptonians, and Nan is to go and crush Nate's spacecraft. Really, this spacecraft, I'm like, there's a lot of gold in that spacecraft. Like, it looks kind of goofy, but, like, I guess for movie's sake. But yeah, they just crushed this thing with Nate inside it. And so basically you could assess every one of these astronauts were to be killed horrifically. And so the Kryptonians decide, well, hey, like, since there seems to be nobody left on Earth, on this moon, like, I guess we should just go to, like, the next planet, which should be Earth. Maybe we might find the son of Jor-El located there. So the Kryptonians just head to Earth. They just go on and just have a good time. Lex and his trusty sidekick Otis are in prison. And Lex is relegated to forcibly do laundry duty. And Lex is just so bitter at that. Because he's like, so this is what is going to forcibly be left for me to do? Me to, like, fold clothes and squander? Like, like, I'm Lex. I'm a billionaire. I don't want to do any of this. Lex is to tell Otis about this black box and to get it ready because Lex wants to try and locate where Superman's home away from home is, if you know what I mean. We have Lex who wants to travel a little bit north, get a little bit cold, if you know. Lex and Otis go to have supposedly lights out in their prison, but they do not turn their lights out. We have the prison guard who is to go into their cell, and they are continuing to play a game between one another, both Otis and Lex. The guard is to get closer to these people to all of a sudden see them vanish. The very back of him is to actually show a projector that is being played. So this guard doesn't quite understand what's going on. He shifts back and forth to realize that they have this black box that is to be projecting some image of them being in their cell, but they are not. Both Otis and Lex had escaped to have a giant balloon with a ladder coming down come to their rescue to help them escape from this prison. Lex goes first and steps on Otis's hands. Lex makes his way into the balloon, and Otis tries to get into the ladder, and sadly the ladder is pushing both Luthor and Miss Tessmacher like down with Otis. So Lex tells Otis, like, stop, like, do not come with us, and he tosses the ladder back at Otis, and Otis is to fall over. So the prison guards collect Otis. Lex and Miss Tessmacher make their way out of here to make it to the Fortress of Solitude. Lex goes to the Fortress of Solitude to try and figure out the whole crystal thing that Superman has used so easily. Lex tries to start moving big, small crystals around. The first thing he is to see is a poem called Trees. And so Lex is like, yeah, I don't want to hear about no poem about trees. And Miss Tessmacher is like, well, I do. And Lex is like, oh, well, great, shut up. Here's one thing that kind of baffled or confused me. How in this movie, kryptonite doesn't actually come into play. We have a bunch of Kryptonians, but no kryptonite in this movie. It's kind of sad in all brutal honesty, but it forcibly that's the way the cookie crumbles in this film. Because you would think with how Lex figured out kryptonite in the other movie, you would have thought Lex would have just been like, well, like, when I'm talking to these Kryptonians, I'm going to bring out the kryptonite necklace that I used on Superman against these guys, and if they give me any lip or any crap, I have their weakness in hand via necklace. So, like, numbers game be what it is, but Lex could have busted out that kryptonite necklace, and Zod would have been like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to kneel down to you, and Lex would have been like, yeah, I thought so. But Lex is stupid. You could say he's really smart, but when it counts, he's dumb. So Lex is to go and switch around, like he's trying to find his favorite station or his favorite channel with this Kryptonian thing. Coincidentally, we find a crystal that is to help us understand what is going on with current time event of the Kryptonians making their way to Earth. via explained by Superman's mother, mentioning how that 3 Kryptonians had been imprisoned before. Lex is to ask, well, is there any possibility of parole or like uh, being out for good behavior? Uh, the uh, Superman's mother is to answer that question, and Lex is like, "Well, I guess I asked the right question." But as Lex is to continue talking to Superman's mother, it seems that this is a pre-recorded message. And then Lex is like, "Well, you know what? Like, this is great to have seemingly 3 uh like supermen that are to eventually come here to take down Superman. Like, this is going to be great." So, after Lex gets, I guess, approximately what he wants, Lex goes back to his riches and his nice suits and his fancy wigs, goes on to eventually make it to the White House at some point in this movie. So I think I covered all the in between stuff. Let's make it to the Niagara Falls. So Lex and Clark and Lois. That's where I was going with the L word, Lois, not Lex. Lois and Clark make their way to Niagara Falls. They make it to some hotel because they are supposedly posing as newlyweds to try and figure out whether this hotel is doing a newlyweds racketeering to, like, they're trying to expose them for overpricing newlyweds, and they're trying to figure this out. They're trying to uh, figure out this case. So funny enough, both Lois and Clark, their names are, I guess, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, because I guess it's just lazy writing. Both Clark and Lois are to make it to the room. Immediately, the doorman is to ask them, well, hey, like, we have a tradition of having the groom, like, carry the bride into the room. And Clark is like, well, yeah, I'm willing to do that. And Lois is like, yeah, I'm not. Let's just walk in. And Clark is like, oh, okay. uh, we also had this moment, bizarrely, where Lois and Clark are in Lois's office, and Lois is to talk about oranges, and she's trying as much as possible to fight a cold, or fight getting a cold, and that a bunch of vitamin C will help her do that. And Lois is to crush these oranges, and Clark is to go and try to crush these oranges, and it seems that he has his thumb caught in the machine, I guess, but like his hand didn't get harmed. So let's push on. Let's push on. So we're back in hotel. Uh, so they're to basically explain why they're there, of course. Uh, Clark consistently has to mention every single free thing that they are to get, like a free corsage, or a free bottle of champagne, or a free number of things. Lois is like, well, yeah, like, it seems free now, but wait till we get the bill. So, that is all explained and out of the way. Both Lois and Clark go out to try to enjoy these views, and we have a kid who is consistently like trying to like grab onto a railing and like try to like consistently like grab onto the railing, let go, grab onto the railing, let go. Lois, because she's usually pretty hungry, asks Clark, "Hey, let's go and like let's have a meal. Let's find a meal." So Clark is like, "Well, hey, how about I go and like get hot dogs? It seems like hot dogs are over there." So Lois is like, "Sure, go ahead." Clark goes and gets hot dogs. We are to find out that this girl has slipped and is falling into this, of course, Niagara Falls. Clark is to hear the commotion, quickly change into Superman, fly, grab this girl, and drop her back to safety. The girl is like, again, again. And Superman is like, well, one per customer, I'm sorry. Lois is to run to try to say hello to Superman. Superman is not paying attention, running off, like, because Superman can hear everything, but everything. Superman is to run off to go back and go from being Superman to turning back into Clark to get these hot dogs and bring them to Lois. Lois all of a sudden is like, hey, why is it that all of a sudden this girl was saved here by Superman and I haven't seen Clark while Superman was doing his thing? That seems a little peculiar. Lois is to just like put two and two together that maybe Clark is Superman. Clark comes back to give Lois her hot dogs, and Lois is like, you know what? There's something fishy about you, Clark. I don't know what it is, but I want to put my finger on this whole business. Clark and Lois are to go back to being close to the falls still. Lois decides that she is going to tell Clark the truth, that she is accusing Clark of being Superman, and she is going to prove it by having Lois go and drop into the Niagara Falls, or into these wild waves of ocean, to see if Superman will save her, because then Clark will have to disappear. Clark instead decides to, well, I am going to try and save Lois in a different way. Clark uses his heat vision to drop a branch, and Clark is desperately telling Lois to swim to this branch. Swim to the branch, Lois! Swim for it! Because Lois is yelling for help, screaming for help, but no one is coming. It seems that Lois can't swim, but she's also like pretending that she can't, bizarrely, for whatever reason. Clark heat visions the branch. Lois grabs it. Lois makes it to the lighter part of the falls. So Clark goes and tries to pull her out of this water, and he falls in. And Lois had said that that if she is wrong about this, that Clark is going to have like the story of the century. So I guess he's gonna get the story of the century, that Lois was Lois lost her mind, and She was hoping Superman was going to save her, but man, was she wrong. So Lois mentions to Clark, like, I can't believe that I thought you were Superman. But here's the thing, folks. We have both Superman and Lois to making their way back to their hotel, and Lois is to mention that she needs her comb. I'm probably doing some of these like scenes out of order from the original movie. So if there's some Zod things going on and I'm not focusing on it, it's probably because I'm going to get back to it. Because I know there's quite a bit of Zod stuff going on in here, and I'm just kind of waiting for a time where I'm like, I want to savor the moment of certain things, and then like I will put a pen in that and then focus on certain other characters and their importance. So Lois is to ask for Clark to get her a comb. Clark is to go and get her a comb, but Clark is to also trip and have his hand land into this fire. Lois, naturally assuming that Clark's hand is burnt, is asking for Clark to show his hand to her so she can help take care of it. But Clark's hand is completely not burnt. So Lois is like, I knew it! Like, I knew you were Superman. Like, your hand is not burnt. And Clark is like, dang it! Like, out of all the things that it could have, like, showcased that I was Superman, well, Clark goes and takes his glasses off, and then he is to look a little bit more like Superman, because I guess, like, without the curly Q going on with his hairstyle, Lois immediately realizes that Clark is Superman when he takes the glasses off. So Clark is like, well, I guess the jig is up, and so I guess now that you know everything, or now that you know I'm Superman, I'm going to tell you everything. So Clark decides to want to take Lois to the Fortress of Solitude because he wants to try and explain a lot of uh, his Kryptonian heritage and all this stuff, like everything to Lois now that one, he loves her, and two, because she knows. So Clark is to, and here's the goofy thing in this movie. So in Superman 2, we don't have the kiss that makes Lois forget. Like, I thought in this movie that Clark is to kiss Lois and make her forget. Maybe this variation of this movie is not the actual theater variation, because I thought that Clark smooched Lois and made her forget about everything. In this movie, like, they take the Superman 1 thing where they just rotate time around to have people forget about what had happened. I'm going to pause here for a second so I can reset also. Reset accomplished. So let's put a pin in the Lois and Clark stuff, or the Lois and Superman stuff, and let's get into the Kryptonians. So the Kryptonians make it to Earth, and we have, of course, them realizing that they are to have superpowers. Ursa is to grab a snake, be bitten by it, and say, like, wow, like, I have superpowers. It's amazing. Because Ursa goes and heat visions the snake and kills it. And she's like, wow, like, I have superpowers on this planet. And Zod is like, well, we all do. So they are to eventually try and understand these superpowers. It seems that Non's powers is a little different. It seems that his powers are much weaker, or like really he's just like the muscle, but not much else. Like his powers are kind of garbage compared to everybody else, in all brutal honesty. So the Kryptonians are to continue to walk on to have a police car in their way. So Zod is to mention that he's like, well, I love the crimson color that is like the uh, Krypton's red sun, but I don't like the sound. Like it's really annoying because his police car is to uh, come through with its sirens on, but with the Kryptonians right there, they are to stop everything because they are just confused about what they are seeing here. Uh, at some point, we have people when the Kryptonians make it into an actual town. Immediately, someone is to mention that, oh, okay, like I guess the circus is back in town, as if like that is the oldest saying in the book to say for any time there is somebody abnormal coming to a town. Like, look at the Back to the Future Wild West. I think the fourth film, the third or fourth film. Uh, I know a lot of people will correct me, and that's okay. The Wild West Back to the Future film, where like we have Michael J. Fox, Marty McFly making it into a bar with odd colored Western gear, and immediately they're like, "Hey, is a circus in town?" So the Kryptonians are seeing this sheriff and this deputy, and the sheriff and deputy were kind of figuring out where the heck that they were going to eat. It seems that the deputy was mentioning like, well, like I don't want any place that is to serve fish. Like, I don't want fish. The sheriff is to consistently tell the place that they're going to eat at has a large variety, a big selection. And like the sheriff mentions that they might have beans, and the sheriff and the deputy is just like, well, maybe I'll just have the fish then. It's like because this kid like mentions that like any other food will give him like rashes or whatever, but so the sheriff and the deputy are to get to these Kryptonians. We have the deputy who is to hold out his shotgun, his double barrel shotgun, to these Kryptonians. The Kryptonians are to grab this shotgun via a heat vision that is to grab this gun away from this deputy, pull it towards them. Zod is to grab this shotgun and pull the trigger upon himself, and he just calls it a noisemaker and tosses it. Non picks up the car to try and grab this gun, but there's no bullets in it, so he just kind of just tosses it around because there's nothing to do. So we of course have the Kryptonians calling this planet Houston because they don't know wherever the heck else to call this but Planet Houston. Eventually, there is a news reporter that is going to correct them, but that comes later. So, the Kryptonians are to talk to this sheriff and this deputy to have them come into town. So, the Kryptonians are to come to this town, and of course, Ursa is to arm wrestle a guy and to easily beat him. One guy is to tell Ursa she's going to be spitting teeth. Yeah, not so much, because Zod is just going to fling him out of this building, and he is to just get hurt. Zod is already at this point just really just bored, and like he's looking for a challenger, And there are people here and there that are to mention Superman, and Zod is like, well, where is he? Like, I want to meet this Superman. So Zod and the Kryptonians are to just kind of like use their powers. Zod is to see a man from a distance hold out a weapon to try and shoot these Kryptonians, but Zod goes and white lasers him from using his finger to have this guy being like pushed up and down and falls to the ground, and everybody's asking him if he's okay. So let's push on to the important part. Like there is starting to be like military forces that are coming in here, helicopters coming in, seeing if they can like try to like help out or take these Kryptonians down. Military forces coming in there. There's a 4-star general trying to take these Kryptonians down, which not gonna happen. So there's a news reporter covering the Kryptonians making their way here, and mentioning that this town has been filled with fear over these Kryptonians. So Non is to grab one of their TVs, and Zod is to tell him stop. Zod is to ask this this news reporter like who is seeing like this television show, or who is to be seeing what they're broadcasting. And the news reporter is to say, well, everybody. When we have Zod on TV, I immediately think back to Man of Steel, where Zod is to corrupt everyone's TV, cell phone, everything to get his message out, to have everybody try to figure out where Kal-El is, so they will bring Kal-El to Zod and his men in Man of Steel. So Zod is to mention that he desperately wants this Superman that all of these people are to talk about. Bring me him so I can like defeat him like everyone else, kind of thing. So Zod is to go and speak to this 4-star general, mentioning how like, oh, you were a 4-star general like I am. So here's my question, like, who do you report to? This general mentions like, well, the President of the United States. And Zod is like, well, like, then I need to meet this man then so he can bow down to my knees like everyone else will. So, again, Superman doesn't know what the heck is going on. Like, he comes in this very late. Because Superman is in the Fortress of Solitude, going and making a date with Lois Lane, going and getting a bunch of rare flowers and a bunch of groceries. I guess, like, you would have thought that Superman going to the grocery store, you would have thought that maybe he would have heard a scoop or a word about something, but I guess not, because maybe he just sped through the grocery store to get all these groceries, because I doubt Superman had a wallet on him, and to make it back to Lois to get this whole date together and eventually have them sleep together, because after this date, we have Clark who is to talk to his mother and to mention that, well, Mom, you know what? I'm going to need to give up all my powers and become an ordinary man. And so Superman's mother is like, well, like, I know that this would come at some point. but like it is kind of like a very kind of, because if he is to give up his powers, he is to supposedly give up his powers forever. Plus, also, Superman's mother warns him that, well, if you are to become immortal, you are to be uh, like sick like an ordinary man. You are to be hurt like an ordinary man. You are to basically die like an ordinary man. So, like, is this really the thing that you want to do? And Clark tells his mother, he's like, I love her. Like, I want to give up my power for Lois Lane. So Clark goes in this crystal phone booth looking thing and goes and just gives up his power. And here's the Willy Wonka moment of bizarreness where we are to see like Clark just have this like X-ray going on of his body to get rid of all of his powers. And like here's the cool moment where we have Superman who goes from I'm still in this Kryptonian thing costume of Superman, but then we pull away to have Clark back into regular civilian clothes. And so Clark is like, yeah, I just gave up my powers, baby. Lois, how's it going? Lois is like, oh my god, like I can't believe that you just gave that all up for me. And Clark is like, well, yeah, that's how much you mean to me. So both uh both Lois and Clark coincidentally, I guess, are to have a car just lounging around nearby the Fortress of Solitude. I guess Clark always decided that eventually he would need a car to make his way back from the Fortress of Solitude. Because both Lois and Clark drive away from the Fortress of Solitude to make it to some diner to have Lois sit on this one seat, and Clark is to go to the bathroom when he is to come back. It seems that this bully guy named Rocky is to order some steak, and Clark is to mention, like, well, excuse me, sir, like, I was sitting there. And Rocky's like, well, you weren't sitting there now, like, so. So this guy is trying to pick a fight, and really we have Clark eventually just telling Rocky, like, well, sir, how about we step out outside? And Rocky's like, well, okay, how about we step out outside? And so Clark is to start walking outside. We bizarrely have Rocky who is to punch Clark in the back of the head, and Clark is to fall over, smashing his way through this door. And Clark is to start bleeding. Lois is to grab a towel for Clark's blood. Lois is to mention, hey, like, remember, like, you're not the man you were before. And, like, remember, you're the man I love. And Clark is like, well, that's great and all, but, like, that man that you loved is no longer here. Clark goes on to pick a fight with this guy again, to have Rocky again just punch him quite a few times for Clark to fall down in agony. And so we have Rocky who is to just mention that he it has no interest with the food here and walks out. So now we have to focus on Zod making it to the White House. So Zod makes his way to the White House and talks to a person presumably the president. So Zod makes his way to the White House and is like, "Hey, President, is that you? Are you the President of the United States?" And this guy who's sitting there is like, "Well, yes, I am." And Zod is like, "Well, how about you come over here and just kneel? How about you just go ahead and just kneel?" This president just gets up as quickly as he can and just kneels down at Zod's feet. And Zod is like, "You're not the president of the United States. Nobody who has the fate of the world on his shoulders is going to kneel to me so quickly. You're not the president of the United States." So the real president of the United States mentions, "Well, yeah, I'm sorry. All these guys were hiding me. I am the real president." So we have Zod who's like, "Well, how about you do some quick kneeling?" And the president is like, "Well, for the fate of the world and the fate of the country, I will kneel to you if it saves lives." And Zod is like, "It will. Hmm? Do some kneeling there, buddy." So the president is to kneel down. So they're to do a press conference of basically Zod giving his declaration of taking over. We also have, bizarrely, Lex Luthor, who has just made his way to the White House because they just let everybody into the White House, even Lex Luthor, a criminal guy who can just make his way bizarrely into the White House. Lex is to flag himself a white flag to try and tell these Kryptonians that he is going to offer them the world. And so he tries to mention all of these things that, hey, you have, I will be able to give you the free will to maim and kill and whatever. And Zod is like, "Dude, I already have that." Lex is like, "Well, how about my intellect? I'm smarter than a lot of people that are that are alive." And Zod is like, "Well, we don't need that either. So what do we need you for?" Lex is like, "Well, Superman's home address?" Where Superman hangs his hat? I know information about this Superman guy that you do not know. So Zod is like, "Well, that sounds fascinating." I want to finally face this Superman character. And Lex is like, "Well, yeah, but you don't know the whole story. Superman, actually known by you, is actually Kal-El." And Zod is like, "Oh, the son of Ajela." I love that line. The son of Ajela. Great. So I will seek my vengeance after all. Great. I've been wanting to fight the son of Jor-El and murder him for the imprisonment that I have faced. Blah, blah, blah. Paraphrasing, whichever. So, we have Lex going and hanging on to the back of these Kryptonians to make it to Metropolis? Question mark, because Statue of Liberty and New York landmarks. They make their way to the Daily Planet. So, Superman is to see on the television that the Kryptonians are taking over, and he's like, "Oh my god, I've made a mistake. I've made a big mistake." So, Lois goes off to the Daily Planet, and Clark is to try and Hulk style his way. Wrong company, but still, it's funny. Clark is to hitchhike his way to make it to the Fortress of Solitude, because that's the really goofy thing. Evidently, everybody is just willing to give him a ride to the Fortress of Solitude. So, Clark makes his way to the Fortress of Solitude to yell out for, "Mother! Father! I made a mistake. I have failed." So Clark makes his way back all boo-hooery and sad that he had given up his powers at the wrong time, screaming out for his parents to help him. And Clark is like, well, I don't think that I'm going to be able to have you help me, but I'm going to just talk anyways and see what happens. All of a sudden, we have Clark who is to see the green crystal that he had gotten from his parents light up and is going to, I guess, give him the ability to put back together the Fortress of Solitude and give him back his powers. So, Superman is to make his way back to Metropolis, New York. It's New York. uh, the Kryptonians are to make it to the Daily Planet and just be like, you know what, we're gonna be taking Lois Lane because like she's Superman's right hand person. So we're gonna just take her and some of the other like news anchors are like, not over my dead body, and the Kryptonians are like, because like we have them, of course, muttering the word Superman again to these Kryptonians, and we have Zod who's like, God, like why do all of you mention this Superman guy? Where is he? Like, is he a coward? Like, where is this guy that you talk so highly of? So, paraphrasing, ba 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 ba, Lex is to tell these Kryptonians all the information of what they are to need. So, we have the Kryptonians that are just bunkering down until Superman is to eventually just show, and Superman does. So, Superman is to finally pop his head, just be like, "Hey Zod, like if anything, like I'm gonna take you down. So let's get going. Let's get on with this." So Superman is to fly off. The Kryptonians are just to crash through these windows. It actually looks kind of funny, but they just like bizarrely just crash through these windows. These like curtains and all and whatever and like are these like whichever the blinder things on and all like they just crash through these windows, and I thought that was just the weirdest visual. Anyways, so the Kryptonians, we have Zod, who is to be at this construction site where there is to have a crane that is to have this part of wall. Zod grabs this wall to shove and try to hit Superman, but Superman is to use his heat vision to destroy that. But he is to also like brace himself because that thing had come at him far too closely. Bits and pieces fall onto the ground, and so there is a out of shaped scene where people are to look up and point, which is actually inaccurate because the signs are incorrect. Maybe they would adjust that at some point, eventually through some Blu-ray or special edition where they are to correct the signs, because the signs had already been posted at some other part of this movie where they were shown correctly. Uh, so uh, we see Superman who is trying to take out these Kryptonians, but really, like, for the most point, he's getting fairly stomped. We have Superman who ends up getting pushed into the light part of the Statue of Liberty. Superman is to have this one, God, like part of this building have this, God, how would I describe this? Because uh, a cell tower like thing that is on top of a building is to fall off this building. Superman is to grab it to eventually have Non, who is on the top of this building, and Superman is to put this tower thing on top of Non, and he is to just kind of be stuck there for a little bit. Uh, Superman also goes and takes Zod and starts to swing and fling him into the Coca Cola sign and have him get hit with that. Zod is to also use his heat vision uh, against some truck, but Superman is to reflect that heat vision, hit Zod, and then Superman is to freeze the thing that Zod had heated up, and so the truck is fine. Uh, Superman or Zod is to realize that Superman has a weakness, and it is these people, not kryptonite. These people. So they are to recognize his weakness. So the big thing is Non and Ursa are to grab this bus. And this is actually a pretty cool visual. So Non and Ursa are just kind of juggling this bus. The bus is rocking up and down. Superman is like, no, the people! No, the people! As these people are kind of rocking this bus back and forth. So these people are trying to like slide out of these windows. But eventually Ursa and Non go and sling this bus to have Superman try to stop it by like having his body pressed against it. But Superman eventually goes careening into this like Marlboro truck, and like everyone is to assume that Superman is dead. Like Superman is like crushed to death. So we have all the Kryptonians just kind of lining up. It seems that since everyone is figuring that Superman is dead, all the people in the town are like, hey, like, we're going to go after these Kryptonite guys. We're going to go after them. We're going to try to, like, we're going to defend this city if Superman is now dead. We got to do something. So everyone in the town starts walking up to these Kryptonians. The Kryptonians are to blow them all a kiss or to just blow them away. So all these people are starting to get blown away. We see Superman make it back up from his crushing blow. So Superman is to try and catch his breath because he's just exhausted at this point. So many maneuvers that he has had to do because it's a 3-on-1 scenario, and every one of these characters are equally, if not more, like strong in some ways more than Superman is. So Superman decides to go and fly away. So the Kryptonians decide, well, like, we're going to follow him. Because Lex is like, well, guess what? Superman has another address, and it's up north. And I'm going to tell you exactly where that is. The Kryptonians take both Lois and Lex to the Fortress of Solitude, where Superman is to recoup. So the Kryptonians are to make their way to the Fortress of Solitude. Superman is to try and defend himself, try to beat them in the Fortress of Solitude. But again, it's still a numbers game. Even though Superman is to bizarrely fling this weird, like decal of a Superman logo against Non, and it bizarrely just vanishes. Clark tries to like try and beat them, but eventually he just realizes that he can't. So then he has to outsmart them. And also we have Ursa who's to grab Lois by the neck, just saying like that Zod is like, you know what? Like, I'm getting just kind of tired of this. Like, if anything, like we're really just consistently like this back and forth thing going on here. So we Superman is to eventually come up with a plan. So Superman is to tell Lex, "Hey, like if anything, uh we're gonna try to push these Kryptonians like into this crystal uh thing, this crystal room, and lock them in there because uh this room can take off their powers." So Lex, ever being the person who is to butter up uh, Zod because he was to ask Zod for Australia, then Cuba, so, so he could control these locations. Lex is to immediately tell Zod what the plan is, to have Superman sucker these Kryptonians into this crystal room. So Zod is like, well, hey, well, how about you just Superman? How about you just go into that room? How about you just go? We're not going to fall for your plan. It's Superman. How about you just go into that room? Lose all your powers, and then you're going to kneel down to me. You're going to tell me how much you love me. So Superman goes into that room, and the procedure is to happen. The very first time I ever saw this film, I'm like, dude, like that didn't work the same as the first time around. So there's got to be some switcheroo going on here. And then plus I also thought, well, like there's a lot of red coming from out of this crystal. Like what's going on here? Superman goes through this procedure and then walks out. So Zod is like, well, okay, you're gonna kiss my ring and you're gonna kneel there, Kal-El. So Superman is kneeling. Lois is crying. Sometimes her tears, like it seems like they're there and then they're not there, but it's whatever. So Superman goes and kneels, and Zod is like, yes. And Zod is giving his hand to Superman, and Superman is taking it, and then Superman is to crush Zod's hand, and Zod is like, ah. Superman goes to grab Zod and lifts him up, and then chucks him away. Non is like, oh my god, I need to go after Superman, so he starts to fly, but then all of a sudden he is like, uh, Wild Coyote in the Looney Tunes, where he's like, yeah, I can't fly, and look, there's a big hole in the ground. So he's like, holding up a sign that's like, help, and then he falls. So Lex is to realize, hey, so wait a minute. So you were safe in there, and all these other Kryptonians are now human because all of them have lost their power because they had gotten hit by the rays while you were protected in that room. And Superman was like, you got it. So Lois like is dealing with Ursula, or Ursa. I said that wrong. So Lois goes and punches out Ursa for her to fall like all the other Kryptonians. So really, this is where the movie really goes into wrapping up mode for the bulk of this movie now. So wow, I've spent an hour and a half talking about this movie. Time, like I knew there was a lot to unpack, so let's quickly wrap this up as much as possible. So Lex, Lois, everybody is to make their way back to where they are supposed to be. And Clark is to decide to rotate Earth back around again, so much so that the Kryptonians are back into the Phantom Zone, glass thing, where they are to be angry that they are still to be locked in the Phantom Zone, and then Superman goes back and rotates back the Earth to where it is at current time of next day, or the rest of that day. Clark is to, I guess, have changed time, I guess, so much so that Clark is to talk to Lois, and she's like, you know what? Like, for some reason, have this idea that I've, the world's biggest scoop, and I can't quite put my finger on it. And Clark is like, well, that's great, Lois. I hope you figure that out. As he's kind of, looking at her. It's like, hopefully you don't remember. See you later, bye. Because, yeah, we don't have, in this version, we don't have Superman kissing Lois and having her forget everything. And that's what I thought had happened in this film. But maybe that happened in the first film. Maybe that happened whatever. I don't know. Maybe this was a different variation of which that I have seen. And I'm sorry if anybody's yeah, this is a different version, or yeah, I actually like this version better. It makes more sense. Whichever. So Superman rotated the Earth numerous times over to have everyone forget. If Lois knew that Superman was Superman, I guess she doesn't know now, because Superman had changed the world. So, and then also he read a lot more Dickens. So, Clark is to go back to this diner to confront Rocky yet again, to tell Rocky that, hey, this is my favorite seat, sir. If anything, Rocky is ordering a meal, and Clark is like, well, I've never seen garbage eat garbage before. Rocky gets upset, so Clark is like, well, what are you going to do about it? So Rocky goes and punches Clark as hard as he can in the chest. Rocky, of course, just hurts his hand. So Clark is to grab Rocky and put him on this diner's long stretch of table, plop him onto his own food tray, slide him all the way down for him to go and crash into this arcade machine and be knocked out. So Clark is to give the diner owner money for the damages, and also tell him he's been working out. So really, for this movie, that is really how this movie ends, with Clark getting the better of this bully. And I think I kind of covered a bulk of this movie. There might have been a thing here or there that I missed about, but there's got to be bits and parts of this movie that I do enjoy. But man, is this movie a very long movie, and it's very informative. And I'm let's get more to that action. Let's get to those cutaway scenes that are to have Superman meet and greet people, or have Superman help people. And then we'll get that villain out of the way, and then we'll have those romance scenes with Clark and Lois. So with that said, I think I've covered hopefully most of this movie. If there's any part that I missed out or I forgot about, or there might have been a big, huge thing that I completely missed, I tried my best. But with that said, I am going to get out of here. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.